All right, this is going to be part one to the Michigan Boilers licensing exam. This would be for the installers. 1B is what these questions are based off of. I've got a sample test here, and it's concentrating on the CSD1 boiler book. All right, so we'll go through these questions one at a time, and then I'll kind of show you where I found them in the book. What I would tell you is, I'm giving you this information. If you think I'm incorrect, call me out on it. We can have a discussion about it. I'm not going to say I'm 100% right because I did fail the test the first time. So these are the questions that I kind of remember. I've also kind of created some to kind of give you an idea of what to look for, but these are going to be pretty similar to what's on there. All right. So number one, for a steam boiler, which ASME stamping is required? And that's going to be H stamp. HE stamp is for heating, a water heating application on there. Number two, CSD1 installation report must be completed according to which appendix? And that's going to be C, Appendix C, and I'll show you that in the CSD1 book. All right, number three, when completing a boiler installation, what must the installing contractor provide to the owner? A payment receipt, manufacturer's instructions, wiring and piping diagram, and written precautions. C, maintenance schedule. D, warranty card. Correct answer is going to be B, and you're going to want to have them sign off saying that you've given them that information. Okay. 4, true or false? When more than one fuel train component requires a vent line, each component must have a separate vent line unless otherwise approved by the authority having jurisdiction. That would be true. Okay. Number 5, a steam boiler typically operates at what maximum pressure? And that's going to be A, 15 psi. And number 6, a hot water heating boiler operates at what maximum pressure and temperature? And that's going to be B, 160 psi, 250 degrees. All right, number 7, when a low water fuel cutoff is connected to a boiler, what is the requirements regarding shutoff valves? Allowed if approved. B, no shutoff valves allowed. C, allowed with multiple cutoffs. D, allowed when labeling. Of course, that's going to be B. Key thing, no shutoffs. No shutoffs, on the relief valve before, between the boiler and the relief valve. I would say pretty much any safety, no shutoffs. No way of, cutting that safety out of the picture. 8, low pressure steam boilers require how many automatic low water fuel cutoffs? 1, 2. 1 may be combined with a feeder. C, 3. D, none. Correct answer there is B. 2, 1 can be combined with the feeder. Okay, number 9. I'm going to try to move this one so actually it's all in frame there. For hot water heating boilers, what is the minimum pipe size for external low water fuel cutoff device? And so you can see the options there. Basically, it's B, NPS, DN25. Or turn the page here. Keep in mind there's questions about sizing. I can't remember all of them, but I would say, that's going to be part of it. If you get this book, you want to highlight, important areas there as far as sizing goes, or keep that in mind where to find them. All right, so number 10, true or false, a flow sensing device is an acceptable means of protection for circulation boilers. I've got that as true. All right, let's go over this book, and I'll show you where I've kind of highlighted. It says that you can, tab these. I just didn't find it really necessary. What I did do is dog-ear pages, which, kind of highlighting important parts. But I'll kind of give you a look here. If you see something you want to pause and read. If you haven't ordered this book yet and you just want to kind of see what it's about, or maybe you have a previous version of it. Okay, so here's a part. This is about what you've got to leave with the owner, about the pertinent operating, testing, servicing, cleaning instructions. It's responsible, the installing contractor. That is basically under CG 510. That's part D. Okay. So let's see, and I thought maybe there was another spot that, okay, the other thing too would be knowing your boilers, the limits of what we're able to install when we get approved for this. Million BTUs or less is going to be the limits of your license. And then also here, this talks about the hot water heating boiler, pressures, temperature. Up here, that's low pressure. And that's going to be just in the definitions there. CG 700. Those were the two that I kind of highlighted. I don't think there was really any other ones that really stuck out at me. I don't think I put it in here as far as where I found the information about stamping. The one we talked about, the HW or H. I think I kind of Googled that one. I don't remember seeing it really in any of my books. That's talking about electrical. Okay, here's the part about steam and water side controls. That's CW 110. I've got section D highlighted. All low water fuel cutoffs shall have a pressure rating of at least equal to the maximum allowable working pressure of the boiler. I think, from what I remember, I think there was a question on there about, I think it was a backflow device. It said on there something along the lines of a backflow device was not rated for the pressure or temperature of the boiler. What should be done? I think it gave you two options, if I remember right. I think the first one was remove it, install a correct one that would have the correct rating for that boiler, or option two, which was basically put a check valve in on there. I picked A. I really haven't found that, but this kind of makes me think about, you got to have, proper, low water cutoff that's rated for the boiler, pressure and temperature. Here's the other two here, probe type, low water fuel cutoffs. On here, here's another section, CD 120, about, we talked about having two low water cutoffs, individual chambers. Let's see here. Here's a part about pipe sizing. Okay, and then up here I've got water glass directly and pipe size for that. This is basically talking about, hot water boilers, pipe sizing for low water cutoff. This talks about reset for them. Okay, if we come over here, that's talking about boiler requiring forced circulation. A flow sensing device is approved. That's CW 210. Also talks about here a water line for a fuel cutoff device. All right, here we're talking about temperature controlled devices. I don't know why. I don't remember that really being a test on here. Right here, multiple sensors and operating switches. I highlighted that section. Okay, that's combustion side controls. I'm trying to keep this moving along. I know I know if you're trying to study in that you know a long drug out video with just me turning pages is not probably very interesting, but I want to kind of highlight areas that I think are kind of important. Here, this talks about where there's more than one fuel train component requiring a vent line at a location. Each fuel train component shall have a separate vent line piped by the installer to the outdoor at a safe point of discharge as determined by the authority having jurisdiction unless otherwise permitted by F or H. And here's the part about F. Basically, if approved by the authority having jurisdiction, it talks about to minimizing back pressure. Basically, the manifold line shall have a cross-sectional area not less than the area of the largest branch line. Okay, and so let me see, and then we had H. Points of discharge, outdoor requirements, special exceptions. That's right there. Probably should highlight that just because I'm pretty certain there's a question on there about venting the gas trains. So I would say that would probably be a important part to highlight. Nothing really high, and I would tell you, go through this book. You know the insides and outs of it. Read it. You know, tab it if that helps you. I just kind of dog-eared it. Okay. Here's the part we were talking about, the CSD1, the appendix, for that, and then it kind of tells you, you know, certification and reporting for controls and safeties. You know, that's Appendix C. That's that question I talked about. I think that was pretty much it in here. So that kind of covers this book. And like I said, we're going to take it one book at a time of each question. We'll do 10. Test is 50. Key points I would tell you that are fresh in my mind right now. Keep in mind that in Michigan, as far as your license goes, staying in your lane, meaning if you're approved to be licensed in a certain area, well, let's just say you're approved to be a boiler installer, you shouldn't be running domestic water lines to your boiler. If that's the case, you want to have a plumber come in. If you're putting a new boiler in, that's not part of what you would do. Other thing I would tell you is I kind of remember there's a question on there about permit on there, like who would be able to pull a permit or licensed on there, which that kind of covers the frequently asked questions on the Michigan boiler page. This would be kind of one I would highlight because I do know there was a question on there about this as far as one permit from the state. All you'll need to install a boiler. No, you may need a mechanical permit for venting, gas piping, plumbing permit for boiler for feed water, electrical permit for boiler power. Keep that in mind. I would say that's probably an important thing for that test. I remember there was a question on there about sections. Who can repair sections in a boiler? That would basically come down to a boiler repair license. You would have to have that. I think there was a question on there too as far as like how many permits you would need. I want to say, I think it was about the sections in a boiler, and I believe for every section you replace, you would have to have a permit for that sections. Same thing with the boiler. So as far as if you're replacing more than one boiler, you would need multiple permits. We'll get into that because I'm planning on printing off a Michigan boiler permit, and that may have kind of the information on there as well. But let's keep that in our mind too as far as testing goes. I'm trying to think of anything else. Keep in mind, before you can start installation on a boiler, you have to have a permit, and that was kind of the other thing in one of these frequently asked questions. And that's right here. Basically, it says, "Can I install the boiler, then pull a permit?" No, and approved permit must be first obtained before installation can begin. Applying for a permit is not obtaining a permit. You will know your permit is obtained when you receive the permit by email. Other thing would be, what is an emergency or weekend or holidays? Customer urgently needs the boiler installed. You know, Basically here it says, in that case, in the case when the boiler is needed for health, safety, or to maintain operation, go ahead and install the boiler, but inform the boiler division through your state inspector, or you can call and email the boiler division. We'll need to know what, when, and where. What, where, and when, I guess, is how they're phrasing it. So that's the key thing too. In my mind, when I see these questions, I always try to think, stringent, what's going to be required. So that would be the key thing. Don't install it until you have a permit. One of the other things too is starting the boiler. I think that was a question on there as well, which is basically you've got to get it inspected first before you're actually supposed to fire it up. So keep that in mind. That basically comes down to safety. Also, there was a question on there about, and I didn't like the way this one was phrased, because basically it was worded to the effect of, if you install the boiler and it didn't meet the requirements, that you could lose your license. Which, to me, that's one of those where if I pull a permit, I install a boiler, it doesn't pass inspection, I'm going to get red tagged on it. I'm going to get the ability to fix what the inspector has red tagged. I'm not going to lose my license over it. Now, I can see losing my license if I didn't pull a permit and they caught me. Then I could see. But then again, if it's because I didn't pull a permit, usually that's one of those where they fine you. Now, obviously, if you are installing a boiler and you don't have a license, how are they going to pull a license you don't have? So that's where that question, I didn't like the way that one was phrased. And that's one of those where you're going to have to kind of read it through. In my head, I'm going by what I remember. And after I didn't pass it, that's one of those where if I take the test again and that question's on there, I'm going to really focus on what it's saying and try to play that in my head. And like I said, thinking along the lines of stringent requirements from the state. So, maybe they want you to say, yes, true, that they can pull your license. But like I said, I'm looking at it from the standpoint, if you didn't install it correctly, I can't imagine them pulling your license from that. But that would be one of the questions as well. But I would say, if you get that book, kind of highlight those areas. That would be the key thing. Size requirements, as far as pipe sizing, not necessarily like discharge pipe sizing, but those areas that I kind of highlighted. Knowing that the gas train vents, as far as they've got to be vented to the outdoors, you can tie them together only if it's accepted by local authority, which I can't remember how that was phrased, but I would just say, kind of keep that in the back of your mind. I'm trying to think of anything else on this section. I'm trying to keep this video short, so you can kind of cover these books. We'll do sample tests, but I would say, know the boiler, the low pressure boiler, the 15 psi, the hot water boiler up to 160 psi, 250 degrees. If you know that, I'm pretty certain that was a question on there, because you got to basically know what the test is as far as your licensing requirements. One of them I'm thinking of is the CSD1 testing that was on there. Who can test controls? I think it said boiler installer, boiler repairer, mechanical contractor holding an unlimited license, and that's the person that's going to be able to test these controls is the mechanical contractor that has the unlimited heating service license. So I would say, know that that's not really what we're testing for, but that goes back to staying in our lane. Even though we're an installer, if we're going on a CSD1 report, technically, you're not, unless you have the mechanical unlimited heating service license, you can test those controls. I think other than that, I think that's pretty much it. Looks like I'm about 20 minutes, a little over 20 minutes here. I think we're going to end it here. We'll go over some of the other books. If you have questions, feel free to reach out. If you disagree with me on one of the questions, by all means, let me know and we can kind of talk it out and maybe as a community come to a consensus. But my goal here is to help obviously testing is not cheap. The state saying to look at these books would help you pass the test or know these books. That doesn't give you an idea of the test because there's no really sample test online. I tried using AI to help, create questions. Wasn't as thorough. Any question that they had created, I didn't really see on the test. So hopefully this helps somebody out. Like I said, if you have any questions, let me know.